Alright, hello everyone, and welcome back. Andrew at Microphonic Designs here, welcoming you to the Learning KSP series, session number 3. The last time we went through some pretty simple scripting with the on-note callback block, where basically whenever we programmed in Kontakt a script that played back a certain note or notes multiple whenever we held down a note on the keyboard. And today we're going to expand upon that a little bit. And so jumping pretty quickly into the content today, definitely want to remind everyone to please leave a like, comment your thoughts on KSP, questions if you have them. I'll do my best to try and help answer. And of course, subscribe to the channel if you are digging the content. So let me get the PDF pulled up here. We're going to quickly review the summary, the end of the last section that we did. So the statement on note marks the beginning of a note callback. A callback is a section within a script that is being called back or executed at certain times. In our example, the callback is executed whenever the program receives a note on message, since it's a note callback. So again, whenever we pressed a note, it would execute the script. The script processor then interprets each line of the script from top to bottom until it reaches the end on statement, which defines the end of the callback. The function play note generates artificial MIDI notes. So again, that's sort of the groundwork for what we're going to be getting into today. So if you haven't checked it out, definitely go back and watch the first 2 videos, super valuable information. Let's sort of set the groundwork here. So we're going to be moving into this section here of this PDF that we've been following along. I've got a new Kontakt instrument pulled up with just a vocal sample that I had programmed across 2 octaves. So it does not sound super good, but it's going to lay the foundation for what we're going to be working on in the next section. The other thing that I'll mention is that I have installed I guess like a KSP syntax plugin for Sublime Text, which has been super helpful. And so we're going to be doing a lot of stuff here, like all of the actual scripting and all that in Sublime Text, and then we'll copy and paste it into Kontakt. So Sublime Text is free. You can purchase a license for it, but for now, as I'm still learning, I'm going to stick with the unregistered, not buying a license, free version of Sublime Text. So here's just a quick preview of the sample that I have loaded in. I think yeah, that's the high range. And so I've put some reverb on there, just with the plate reverb here in Kontakt. And it's just a whatever vocal sample that I had on my hard drive. So that's what we'll be working with. Let's dig in here. So built-in variables, building a simple Octaver. So we're working in octaves. So again, I wanted at least a 2-octave range to work with here. So if you've played around with the script mentioned above, you will have noticed that you can enter various numbers for the note and velocity of the MIDI note to be triggered, but it's always static. The script always generates the same notes. Now, this should really change, right? Please input the following script. So let me show you real quick the Sublime Text stuff. So I am going to, first of all, make sure that KSP is set as the syntax, and then we're just going to type in the script here. Oops. Okay. So I've typed in the following script, so we're just going to double check it. On note, play note, event underscore note minus 12. Comma, event velocity 0, -1, and on. So all of that matches, and let's go ahead and copy this. Oh, and you'll see there's the different colors and the different color coding. It is super helpful. With one little line of script here, I know it doesn't seem like too big of a deal, but I'm working on some larger projects in between videos, and it is super helpful. So we'll come into the script editor, and we'll paste that in. We'll apply it. Looks like it's good to go. And now it's saying, play some notes on the keyboard. Every note you play will be accompanied by the octave below with the same velocity of the original note. You've just built a simple octaver. So let's try that out real quick. Yeah, and you can see down there too, whenever I'm holding down that note, the two little red dots there, they match in velocity and they are exactly one octave apart. So yeah, this script works. How did we do that? So this little script introduces us to two new elements, variables and operators. You will find detailed information about these two concepts later in this manual, but for now, let's stick to the following. The event note is a built-in variable. It carries the note number of the original played note. So when we play C3, or in our case, whatever note we're playing down on our keyboard, event note will be 60. So if we're holding down F3, that's the event note. Event velocity is also a built-in variable. It carries the velocity number of the original played note. So when we play a note with a velocity of 110, event velocity will also be 110. You'll also find the operator minus, and yes, it performs exactly as we would expect. It subtracts a value. So the first parameter in the play note function, which denotes the note number of the generated note, is event note minus 12. So when we play C3, which is note number 60, the script will output C2, which is note number 48, since 60 minus 12 is 48, with the same velocity as the note that we played. Again, it's time to experiment, fool around with different transpositions, i.e. other numbers instead of 12, alter the velocity of the generated note, for example, event velocity minus 20, use more than one play note function, you'll get the idea. And so I do have a pretty good understanding of that, and I think you guys probably do too, where basically we can change this number here to either plus or minus. So like I'm sure if we add plus there and hit apply, it will now play the octave above. So I'm going to hit this low F. Yeah, and sure enough, we're seeing the octave above being triggered. So we can use plus or minus there. We can use other intervals other than 12, which is an octave. And then just like we saw in the last video, we can stack more than one of these play note functions on top of one another to trigger different intervals at the same time. The summary here is that built-in variables are very important and powerful things. They cannot be declared, but are always there. We look at two important built-in variables here, which are event note and event velocity. KSP provides many different built-in variables. A complete list of all built-in variables can be found in the reference section of this document. And so, yeah, so in some of my other projects, I'm referencing the KSP reference manual for version 6.6. And it's got a whole bunch of different things. Sometimes it's hard to know exactly how to use these, but I think that's sort of the puzzle-solving factor of all this. Like, we can learn the context and how to use the tools, but then applying those tools to different jobs is sort of on us, I guess. So let's keep going to the next section here. UI control variables and the init callback, creating a simple harmonizer. So now we're really getting into some a little bit higher level stuff. So let's extend our script. Wouldn't it be great if we had some sort of knob which could specify the distance, between the generated note and the original note? Maybe a knob labeled interval. Please input the following script. So let's do this. Let's go back over to Sublime. And we'll just get this script in here. So let me turn off caps lock. So on init, declare UI knob interval -12, 12, 1, which are all very important numbers, and on, and then we keep the same on note. So let's copy this, go back over to Kontakt, select all, paste, apply. Here we go. Interesting. Check that out. Okay. So play a few notes. Each note will be accompanied a fifth above. Perfect for scoring a Ben-Hur-like movie. Okay. Actually, you know what? I need to fix this. I didn't do it right. I'm jumping the gun again here. So we need to fix the on note block here to be the event note plus the interval. So basically what that's saying is instead of a static number, which we had as 12, we can change this to plus interval. So basically whatever number the interval is set to between -12 and +12. So this number here would basically be the lowest number that we want the knob to go to, and the second one is the highest number. It will basically be our event note plus whatever that number is. So let's again copy and paste this into Kontakt. Apply. Here we go. So if we set this all the way to 12 and we play our lowest note, we'll hear that we've got the octaves. And if we bring it down to 7, we'll try out a few different intervals here. Yeah, so there we go. That's working pretty good, pretty well for us there. It says here something else happened aside from just the note stuff going on. Take a look at the script module area. A cute knob appeared labeled interval. Now play a few notes and set the knob to different values. You can now specify the amount of transposition yourself. So we've changed our Octaver into a simple harmonizer. Yeah, so we were just doing that where we can turn this knob and then it shows us what the interval is in semitones. But how did we do that? To put it in a simplified manner, we declared a GUI element, in this case a knob. We told KSP that this knob has a range from -12 to regular 12, and that its initial value should be 7, which is what the interval assigned 7 is. And we finally told KSP that it should add this number to the note number that we play and generate a new note. So this script introduces us to 3 new elements: the init callback, the declaration of UI control variables, that's an important phrase, and the assignment of values to variables. So let's dig into it, it says. So on init and on, which we see here, so on init and on, the initial callback executed when the script was successfully analyzed. The init callback is a callback which is executed when we click on the apply button. It contains all initializations, variable declarations, UI elements, and much more. The init callback is thus interpreted only once, whereas the note callback is interpreted whenever you play a note. It's obvious that when you want to have a GUI element like a knob in your module, this knob needs to be created, but it needs to be created only once. That's why all GUI elements, for example, can only be declared or created in the init callback. The beginning of an init callback is marked with on init and its end is marked with end on, like the note callback. A UI control variable is a type of user-defined variable. The Kontakt script language distinguishes between built-in variables and user-defined variables. In our example, we created a knob, which in principle is a user-defined variable, or you can change the value of the variable by changing the knob in the script module area. Here's how we define a UI element like a knob. So declare UI knob, so that's what we typed here. And then the first thing we type in is the variable name. So in this case, we named it interval. And then the 3 numbers, minimum, maximum, and display ratio. So this creates a user interface knob. It says, don't worry about the various parameters for now. You'll learn them later. So all we really need to know is that, yeah, these three numbers have to be there whenever we declare a UI knob, for example. And then we have to also name the variable, like we have to give the variable a name. So in our script, we've created a knob and given it the name interval. What's missing in our discussion is the third line, which is interval assigned to 7. So the colon equals denotes an assignment. In our example, it says, or it's basically telling KSP, assign the value 7 to the variable called interval. So again, that's just talking about, assigning 7 to the knob. So when the init callback is executed, whenever we click the apply button, a knob is created and the knob initializes itself to 7. When you play a note, this value is then added to the note number that we've played. So when we set the interval to -12 and play C3, note number 60, the accompanying note will be C2, note number 48, since event note plus interval equals 60. So 60 plus -12 equals 48, right? Because we minus the 12, or subtract the 12. We finish with a subtle variation. By now, you should have the chops to understand what it's doing. So let's copy this in here. So it looks like we're going to leave the on note block, and we're going to add a little bit into the on init block here. So let's get in here. Very good, and then we're going to assign a default or an initialized value here, which is velocity. So the variable velocity, if I could type, geez, we're going to assign to 60. Okay, let's copy that and paste it into Kontakt, yeah? Here we go. All right, so now we've got two knobs, user-defined variables, and we can change the velocity and the interval. So I wonder if we bring this all the way down and push this up to 12. And you know what? I'm thinking about this. So the velocity knob should change the velocity of our artificial note, but because I don't have but a single sample loaded in across the entire velocity range, we're not really going to hear a difference. So that to that effect, if we had an instrument loaded in or multiple samples loaded in with like set velocity ranges, we would hear the difference there. So the summary here, let's go ahead and summarize everything. The init callback is called as soon as the script is successfully analyzed. That happens exactly when you press the apply button in the script editor window. A knob is a UI control variable, user interface control variable, which is a type of user-defined variable. UI elements are created in the init callback. So that's all really important building block information stuff. The colon equals signs together marks an assignment. The value at the right gets assigned to the variable at the left of this sign. So again, if we're looking at this, we've got our variable, our variable on the left, which we have two of them. We have our variable of interval and the one named velocity, and they're assigned to two different integer values there. So really, really important stuff. Again, not the most exciting information, not the sexiest stuff ever, but we did add a knob. We added a couple knobs to our instrument, and these two knobs, at least the interval knob, we know for sure was actually doing something, right, with our MIDI notes. And so we're starting to work our way towards not only controlling some of the different behind-the-scenes stuff, but if we added a make perf view and apply that, then we'll see on our performance view here that there are now two knobs in the performance view area. We just needed to actually tell Kontakt to, hey, create a performance view of this instrument. So we're getting there. We're getting to the point where we're able to create custom stuff in the performance view, the user interface, in addition to having those controls affect what we play on the keyboard. Very exciting, at least to me. Next time, looks like we'll be getting into finishing our scripts and doing some debugging and some other stuff like that. Definitely stay tuned. I've got more of this coming up. I thank everyone so much for joining me. Be sure to hit that like button, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think. If this stuff is interesting or super boring. I'm finding it very interesting, and I'm excited, if you've made it this far, that you have tuned in for the ride. So until next time, my friends, I will see you later.